3D Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi guys! In today's video I'm going to be showing you the second part of my little Toy Story series, which is going to be for Buzz Lightyear. And this one I'm also going to be showing you a new brush that I just got from Alpha Brush that's a little bit larger than I normally use. It's a size 14, so you guys will be looking at that one, and I'll show you and talk about it just briefly in the video in case anybody's curious. There's a link to it in the description box below. And I also wanted to mention that if you like this design and you missed my Woody design that goes with it, there will be a link to that video in the description box below. And that video has a giveaway on it for that nail and this nail, so head over there if you haven't entered yet. That giveaway is international, just so you guys all know. Don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! So this is the brush that I mentioned that I got from Alpha Brush, and there will be a link to it in the description box below, as I said. I know I'm repeating myself, but anyways, this is the brush. It is a size 14, which is fairly big for me, but is small for some people. Alpha Brush has a huge size selection, all the way down to a 6, and I think up to maybe like a 20 or a 24. Huge size range. So the first thing you do whenever you get a new brush is you want to get all of that little cornstarch mix out of the bristles. So using a gloved hand or a tissue or something, not your actual skin, just flick the brush to get all of that out. And then you can go ahead and keep going. So I started with an overlay of soft white acrylic, and then I encased it with a layer of clear. One thing you want to keep in mind whenever you get a new brush, like I said, is to use a gloved hand or a tissue or something. You don't ever want to touch the bristles of your acrylic brush with your hand. And I think it's one of those forbidden fruit sort of things that as soon as somebody tells you can't do it, it's the first thing you want to do, and you want to touch your brushes, which is just kind of funny. But the more oils and stuff you get into your bristles, it's just going to damage them quicker, and it's going to make them fray out a little bit. It's just not very healthy for them. So just try to use something so you don't touch them directly. File the nail into shape, and then after you have that done with whatever filing process you like to use yourself, you're going to want to go ahead and start sculpting Mr. Buzz Lightyear with Cover Pink. You're going to do just his head. You don't have to really worry about like his neck or anything, because that's all covered up by his spacesuit hood thing. So just worry about his actual face with the Cover Pink, and don't sculpt in any of the facial features yet. You can save those for later. But then you're going to want to start sculpting just a little hint of that hood piece that goes around the back of his head. So there's just a little bit on the one side of his head, just a hint that you see on the top of his head. He's got such a intense brow bone and forehead that most of the top of his head gets kind of overpowered by that. And then I'm going to be adding the little hint of a neck that shows, same thing with that same purple color. Then you're going to need to start sculpting out his spacesuit, and I grabbed a metallic silver acrylic that I have for just that first top part of it. You don't see too much of the spacesuit, which in my mind, his spacesuit is actually the coolest thing about Buzz Lightyear. It's got all the funny little buttons and everything, all the different colors and the gadgets on there. So I love that part the best, and if I were to do a complimentary nail with this, I would do it all inspired by his spacesuit for sure. And if you had a longer nail, you could definitely fit in more of that. But after you have that little silver piece done, fill in the rest of the tip of the nail if it's about this length with green. Obviously, if the nail's longer, you can adjust things as needed. But for this size nail, green works for the rest of it. And then add a little white panel with some white acrylic. I used very thin white acrylic, so it didn't show up as being white. But then I'm going to take and add a second layer of acrylic over his face. And I said second layer, and I know I'm adding multiple beads on top of here, but it took a couple. Just because his face, I wanted to have his chin to jut out more so that it looked like he's got a very, his facial features are all very broad. They're very defined. So add a little bit more to his chin to make that stick out some, and then kind of push your brush in to give him like the little indents for his smile lines on his cheek, and then sort of pull acrylic in from the sides to make his nose stick out. Just a little bit. And both Buzz Lightyear and Woody have very pointy little noses, so that's the only feature on Buzz Lightyear that isn't kind of exaggerated and really big as his nose. After you have that done, I'm going to be adding a little bit more acrylic to that very defined brow bone, as I have described it before. So add just that little bit more acrylic there, and kind of try to sculpt in the curve of his eyebrows. So have a picture next to you of what his facial features look like, so you can kind of get that eyebrow expression carved right into the acrylic. That's going to make painting his features later so much easier if you can get that sort of in place at this stage. So now I'm going to be just kind of covering over his entire face with a creamy peach paint. And I know that I mentioned some of this in my Woody design that I did this for both characters, and I didn't videotape it for Woody. So if you guys were watching that video and like, well, that's weird, all of a sudden his skin color changed. This is what I did. I just basically painted over the entire thing with this creamy peach color. It took a couple coats, but that gave it such a more plastic-like appearance, which usually isn't what I'm going for, but in this particular circumstance, definitely made them look more like the characters that I was going for. So now with black paint, I'm going to start working on all of the outlining, and for this guy, for Buzz Lightyear, I did want to go straight to black. He's got a bit more of just a harsh appearance to him. Not like he's not a harsh person, but just the way that all of his outfit and everything is black outlines really make it stand out very well. So I had the little designs or the little buttons and everything on his spacesuit. So you have the little yellow stripe where it says Lightyear, and then there's some red underneath that, 3 buttons on the sides, and then wash over that white square that you put on the front with a little bit of blue to kind of make that a little bit of that blue in there, and some white on that, as well as some white just in those 2 little strips on the side of his head. You can't really see much of the detail of his spacesuit, unfortunately, just because I wanted to focus on his face, that it cut a lot of it out. But now I'm going to start doing his facial features, and like I said, I carved in his eyebrows, so you just basically have to trace over those areas that you carved with some black paint to start with, and then I'm going to be outlining his eyes with some brown. And after I did his eyebrows with the black, so I wanted them to be darker than the rest of the outlines of his facial features, but they shouldn't be black. So you can either mix a paint that's a very dark brown, or you can paint them black like I did, and then kind of add little flecks of brown over the top of them after the black paint is dried, which you'll see me do in just a moment. I'm going to touch up his eyelids a bit more with that creamy peach color, and then fill in his eyes. The first layer will be with white. Just add that in there like so. And painting Buzz Lightyear, if you have the design carved in well underneath it, should be really quite simple, because all of his features are already in place. You don't really have to worry about painting in his nose. I just added a little shadow on the bottom of it to kind of bring it out a little bit more, but otherwise everything kind of already has a place. You just have to fill it in. So then add his smile. You've already got his smile, his little cheek smile lines carved in, so just flick a little bit of brown in those and then add the smile in between. Some white for his teeth. And then you're going to want to add blue in his eyes. Little blue circles right in there. Add a little bit, here's where I'm adding the brown on his eyebrows. You're going to want to add a little line between his upper and lower teeth, just a very thin black line. And then add a little black dots in his eyes for his pupils. Add a little shadow on his nose if you want. Yeah, it's kind of, that's a up to you decision if you want to do that. I decided I did, and either way. But then add some gel sealer in the background. Some matte top coat over Mr. Buzz Lightyear. And you are all done. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did miss entering the giveaway, please head over to the Woody video and comment on it, because that will be how you'll be entered. And so I hope you guys, it is an international giveaway, so everybody is included. So please head over and do that. There will be a link in the description box below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!